Begin Podfix Network transmission in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Yummy and Fearless podcast with the Side Chicks, where we offer our side of the issues. Thank you so much for listening. Please follow us at Yummy Fearless on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and even Pinterest, where you'll find additional content from today's show. You can also listen to us on Apple iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, and Spotify. Please rate, like, review, subscribe, and share. And if no one else has told you today, we love you. Now let's get into the show. So how was your week?
It was, just living life, and trying to make $1 out of.
Feel ya.
How about you?
Me too. You know, in the era of the pandemic, almost all week are things.
Yeah, my days run together. I'm still trying to live fearless, but sometimes I'm a little fearful out in the public.
I'm with you. I'm back in my mask. Are you?
I am definitely back in my mask. I think I had gotten a little lax at some point, but yeah, I'm erring on the side of caution at the moment.
Yeah, I'm back in my mask. I am fearful about that. And something else that I've been, I think, a little bit fearful about in my life is in relation to our topic for today,
Let's get into it.
Yes, let's hit it, which is marriage.
Da da da. Yes, marriage. You sent me a song too that tickled me.
I did.
The old Frank Sinatra song, "Love and Marriage," and then the other one. What was the other one you sent?
Mariah Carey's "We Belong Together."
Oh yeah.
Which I love that song. But it is a question. Does anybody actually belong together?
Yeah, you bring up a good question. Sometimes when I see people that I question their sanity, and I see that they have a mate, I'm like, hey, maybe there's somebody for everybody. So maybe some people do belong together.
Yeah,
but
like that song is similar to, I think, like a lot of messages that are in popular culture that get beat into our heads about romantic love.
Yeah, from a very early age too.
Yes, from a very, very early age, to where if you don't participate in it in the way that it's described, you really start to think like maybe something's wrong with me.
Yeah, I have no idea why we subscribe to this either, because I'm going to tell you right now, I have some very unpopular opinions about the subject of marriage. So I don't know if people belong together. I don't even know. And I too was, I was subject to the messages, the millions of messages that I got as a young person growing up. From the time you're little, so and so and so and so sitting in the tree. First comes love, then comes marriage, and
then comes baby.
Right. So it's like it's that old adage from the very beginning.
I think you have some fascinating views on marriage, which is one reason why I wanted to talk about this topic, but also one reason why I sent you two songs. One being a modern song and one being an older song, "Love and Marriage" by Frank Sinatra, which was also the theme song for, what was that show?
Married with Children.
Married with Children. But I also thought that it was also a good talking point, because I think that there's an older concept of marriage, like from, say, the 40s, 50s, to how marriage is sort of evolving today.
You think so?
I do. And we might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
But we're considering doing maybe a 3-part series on this, possibly. And when we do the third part of the series, we want to talk about some of the ways that marriage and how people are treating their marriage is evolving.
Yeah. So let me just, I read something the other day. I want to ask you a question. I'm going to get into some questions here, because I read in a 2020 article from it was pewresearch.org, basically, that fewer than 1 in 5 U.S. adults say that being married is essential for a man or woman to live a fulfilling life. And I guess I wanted to get your take on that. Do you think the person has to be married to be fulfilled in their life?
I don't. And I sort of had this view sooner, I think, than this trend became popular or a bit more known. I don't think that it's necessary. So for me, like, I always, and I have my mother to sort of thank for this. I always was like, and I have Oprah Winfrey also to thank for this, because she much a role in raising me as anyone.
But, Go Oprah.
Yes, Oprah, but also her views on marriage were pretty unorthodox.
So what was she saying? I don't recall.
Oprah was saying that people were more concerned about a wedding
Oh,
than
yeah.
for a marriage. And so I always kept it clear in my head that don't get caught up in wanting a ceremony. Think about the day-to-day life that you would have with the person. Can you do that part?
Really? From a very early, even
From
despite all of the messages that we got.
Despite all the mess, I would think what my long-term life will be like with that person. I always thought that. I didn't necessarily have anything against being married, but I just always knew I had to have a damn good reason.
Okay.
I
Now,
didn't feel like I just had to do it.
so then that gets into what you consider marriage is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself with this, but I'm wondering what all do you think marriage is if you don't think that necessarily has to happen to make you have a fulfilling life, then what do you interpret marriage to be?
So sort of my views have evolved as I aged and just understood what life has been about some. But I think now that I look back, I think that I had some a more mature understanding of that, considering the time period and the images out there. I
Mm,
did it as a partnership.
okay.
I
Okay.
thought partnership, like financial partnership. I thought of it as friendship. I thought of it as the type of person that I would want to raise my children with me. I thought of it as a person to be my friend, like, one of my best friends. Because, like, I know for me, when I'm with a guy, when I'm in a relationship, that person tends to almost be like my best friend in some ways.
Right.
So,
Wow.
so like I knew that with the marriage, like he would have to be like cool as fuck,
Okay.
He'd have to be able to get me. And I didn't have the language for it when I was younger, but I knew that I sort of have a unique personality in that I'm a textbook introvert.
Okay.
So I could never have a dude who has a house full of people all the time.
Okay. Okay.
So like I knew that in my 20s.
Wow, you are really mature and evolved because I didn't hear love in there at all.
Love.
Where did the love come? Where's the
But
love?
what's love? Like I can love, like I think about like all the dudes like I felt loving toward. What's love though?
That's a very good question. I think a lot of us as young people, I'm gonna tell you, my views about marriage have definitely evolved. But at that age, when I was younger, and I would say even high school, when I first started to like boys and decided, oh, I'm gonna go steady with this person. I think I led with my feeling. I led with that. Like that's what I led with. If I liked you, and then that grew into what I thought at the time was love, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I could marry this person because I'm in love.
Really?
Or, this person
Really?
loves me. So it was all about the feeling.
The feeling. But I
Yes.
guess because like I was also so keen on what's gonna be the application of it.
Ooh.
But I can't take credit for it of having like a complete realization myself. I was also raised like that. I
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
told that love is fleeting,
Ooh, yes.
that is a feeling.
I had to learn that the hard way, but
Yeah, that you're not gonna always feel like you love somebody, and that don't have much to do with your day to day. And I
Mhm.
was told that if you can't pay your rent, who gives a damn about love?
amen, sister.
So like,
Amen.
yeah, so I had that in my head too. So it wasn't like I just, was clairvoyant or something. My grandmother would tell me this. My mother would be like, love. And they also would be like, do you know how many women men can love?
Ooh.
They be like, don't think you're special if a man tells you he loves
Yeah, smart women.
you. So I had all of this shit running in my head. Like I drink the Kool-Aid. That
Yeah.
like I need a damn good reason. You gonna have to do more than be like you love me. Plus I felt like, why shouldn't you love me?
Right, right.
Why shouldn't you love me?
Okay, Lizzo.
Right. Like, so, but it's not as red. But I also felt like lots of people are lovable. I don't think just because you love me right now that you can't love her too.
Yes. Where were you when I was gosh, why did we have this conversation like 100 years ago?
I just didn't think so, so I just was always like, I'm like, yeah, I like a wedding, but I'm like, how the hell am I going to get through the life was my turn.
Whew.
And Oprah would say that.
Yes, she would. I can imagine Oprah saying that. She has lived her life that way. All I can say is I wish I'd had that insight several years ago. You're right. Feelings are fleeting when you're leading with feelings and love in particular. Because love manifests in different ways for different people. But I just think that this gets into kind of my unorthodox views about marriage marriage, in my unpopular opinion. I think that marriage, the actual, what we know to be marriage, where people, basically a binding contract between a man and a woman, or in this day and age, same sex, it's a legal contract. I
Yeah.
think marriage to me is a binding legal partnership, whereas I don't think that you have to have to have a committed relationship. So this is a difference. This is a change in me from years ago when I was like, oh, I love him, all that stuff. I think that you can have a committed relationship without being married. To me, marriage, in a sense, almost mucks it up. In a sense, I don't know. Sometimes I think it does. I don't see the need for it as much.
So, okay, so let me ask you this, and I may have waited too late to or go out when I sequenced to ask you this. So, to you, and you may have sort of answered this but what are you supposed to get from marriage?
That's a good question. So I kind of looked this up to see what other people have said about this, and I want to ask the listeners kind of what they think. But there are a few common themes that I think people identify with marriage. So one is love and commitment, which some people think is synonymous. Yeah, love and commitment. I guess is that the same? I don't know. Sexual. I don't know how to say it. The act of sex.
Inner satisfaction.
Right. What else?
Financial stability or
financial joining of assets, faithfulness. What else? Yeah, basically joining of, to me, joining of assets, sex with that person, partnership. Did I leave anything out? Love, commitment. Love and commitment seems to be among the top ones that I see.
So do you think you could be in love with more than one person at the same time?
Woo! Wait a minute now.
Uh-oh.
Oh my goodness.
Wait a minute.
It depends on how you interpret love. To me, love is a feeling, right? I used to think everything was black and white. Like, no, you either love someone or you don't. I think it's so gray and blurry. I think maybe you can love more or be in love with more than one person at the same time. Especially if it's a feeling. Can you be angry with more than one person at the same time?
Right.
I mean,
that's true. So, like, recently I've experienced having a number of throwbacks contact me under this umbrella of I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are allegedly in love with other people because they have these relationships or marriages even.
Wow.
But yet they're like, what I've realized is that I am in love with you.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. So let me just for clarity's sake. So I am Joe Schmo. I used to know you back in the day. I am now married with children. I call you. I remember that, hey, I had a thing for, you. So I call you and I say, hey, I'm married right now.
Mhm.
Haven't talked to you in a long time, but I just want you to know I love you and I'm in love with you. And, what are we going to do about it?
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct.
These Negroes. Oh my God.
Right. And I look at it a few ways where, obviously that's not the opener, but it damn near is. It damn near is the opener, but it just makes you like kind of think like, are they serious? Is it possible? Or like, is this like some, little move to, obtain some old little situation or something? Or whether it's the case in these specific instances or not, is it possible that you can go on, move on with your life, marry somebody else, time passes, and then you reflect and be like, you know what? In truth, who I really love was somebody else or is somebody.
I think it can happen. I mean, especially depending on what the age stage that you are when you get married. Absolutely, I think things can change. I just wonder how you feel about being told that. What are you supposed to do with that information when they give it to you?
That's the thing. Like, one of the things moving through life, I've never dated other people, men, not knowingly at least.
Right. Okay.
To my knowledge, I have not ever done. So that's not my jam.
Okay.
So I've never done that. I'm not one of those people that think it's cute.
Right.
or anything like that.
But we say thank you when they tell you thank you for testing me.
Right. Like, I know I'm not sure. Like, because I've lived a little bit more, I'm not as, like you say, black and white, to where I'm like, oh my God, how dare you? I'm not that. And I think about it a little more like, is that even possible? And I just think about it, I think more in general terms, kind of like, wow, is that possible? And then in other ways, I think like, what if that were my husband? I'd be willing to assist him in becoming deceased.
But why? Why? I think that it's part of it. I think that's just this is where my opinion becomes kind of unpopular, because I think that it's probably natural for a husband. If it were my husband, I don't know if I would be. That's not a deal breaker for me. I think that marriage is one thing, love is another.
Child, listen, because you know what though, if you did that, if you went back and contacted some old throwback and was like, you know what, Bobby John, I actually really love you, and yet told your husband that, do you think he would have been like, you know what, Black Phoenix?
It would be met with probably unfavorable. It probably would be met with less than, it wouldn't be. I'm thinking for any man,
Yeah.
it's not the ideal scenario, right? But I do think that that's because we are not thinking, because it's emotional. There's an emotional reaction, a natural and emotional reaction. And there's that word again, emotion. So I just think that marriage should be separated from the emotions that, naturally come along with being human. That's just what I think. I think that now I'm not saying that I'm so evolved and so beyond or above, feelings or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think that if you break it down, marriage is one thing. Emotions that are tied to a relationship are different, and so maybe they could be still in love with.
And I guess, okay, and so that is sort of my next point in question, which is, do we have like a major disconnect between what is realistic in terms of expectations for marriage? So is it unrealistic to think that your spouse can never have any type of feeling for anyone other than you?
Here comes those unpopular opinions again. So I think that if you have been born, raised, and indoctrinated in the, dare I say, faith-based belief, then yes, you find it. I think that if you're a person who's been brought up in the church or something like that, or in a religion, you might be inclined to think that you shouldn't, it's black and white. Your husband or your spouse should not be having feelings for other people.
Right.
I don't happen to believe that. I don't think it's natural necessarily. I don't even think it's a deal breaker. I don't think it should be a deal breaker. I think it's human. It's me.
Wow. So now I do think that, because for most of us, most people, you're not there first. So they've had experiences before you. And in so doing, there's a chance that they developed or had experienced some type of feeling for someone. So it's possible that they could have met, if this exists, the love of their life, and the mechanics of it just didn't work, and they moved on and they married you.
Yes.
Right?
That's absolutely possible. And that's, again, that is separating the marriage from the love, and then the love from the commitment.
Would you want to know if you were
Hell no. I don't want to know.
Right.
I don't want to know. And I think it's a difference between having a feeling about something and what those feelings make you do. Having an attitude about something and having a behavior that's driven by that attitude is something completely different. That's just what So I'm not saying it's a deal breaker, even if they acted on the behavior. I mean, if they acted on the feeling, but I'm saying that we all have choices here. So, choices have consequences. So maybe it would be okay if you said, hey, Black Phoenix, this happened, and I just want you to know this happened, and this is how I'm feeling. And I might, on one day, for the most part, I'll probably, it's not a deal breaker. I'm not saying I won't have a human react. But then on another day, I might be like, hell to the no.
Right.
I don't like you anymore.
Right, exactly. Well, here's what my ego, and I'm just being honest, I'm not evolved enough. I don't feel my ego would allow me to relax in this. So like, if I knew that my husband, who had a true hard on for someone from 15 years ago that he just couldn't quite get, I wouldn't like it.
Well, maybe he shouldn't tell you.
He shouldn't tell me, but here's what I would ask of the universe. Don't let it happen for him. I don't want him. I would prefer for whoever I end up being with, that I really be that person for them. Because I do think that marriage is difficult in general, and that people have a better chance of surviving it and being successful if that person is truly, truly that person that makes for exceptions for you.
And see, and that's my point about marriage being different from the feeling of love. You can love someone and get married to someone else because of the commitment, because it's a partnership that you're joining into, it's timing. And I don't think that the marriage should be discounted because one of the spouses has a hard on
for someone else.
Especially if you don't know. But I mean, I think it's, everybody has to be wise and
And
prudent.
realistic. But
And
wouldn't you prefer your husband's main hardest hard on to be for you?
I would prefer that the person that I love, if that is my husband, to have the heart on for me. But maybe the person
Preferably.
that I love and the person I'm married to are two different people.
Damn.
I'm just saying. I mean, could it happen? Could it be unpopular? I know it's
Yeah.
unpopular.
No, that's interesting. So, all right. So, I want to make sure that I'm entirely clear on your marriage view. So, do you believe in marriage?
Ooh, that's a tricky question. For some people, I think that marriage has benefits and costs. Did that answer the question? I mean, I don't hate it. I don't think it's like terrible. I don't think it's necessarily the best thing for everybody. Unlike the way we were brought up to believe that everybody, should be your end goal, right? To grow up, get married, have kids, whatever. I don't think that is the case necessarily. I think it has benefit. Yes.
So, is there a better age range to get married in, do you think, though?
Definitely beyond. I don't know if there's an age. I mean, if I were just to take a guess, I would say that most people should be somewhat established and whole, complete people by the time they're like, what, 30?
Yeah.
Because I just feel like between, until you get in the 20s, I think you're still kind of finding and, rummaging around for yourself.
Yeah. So I have a friend who has a son who got married like really young, like maybe at 19 or something. And he married a girl that was also 19. So
Oof.
they've been married. I know.
Don't do it, baby.
But these are not my children. So this happened though. And so they've been married now. They might be like 23. And so there is some indication that he sort of struggles in it because the wife doesn't put sugar on things and that she's not sweet. She takes care of business. She gets things done. She's not like a sweet about it. She's not like, oh, here, baby, here. But part of the issue with that is he got married so young that he wasn't even old enough, I don't think, to realize that was something that he valued.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I say that all the time. Yes.
Yeah. So now that he's 23, 24, and he's kind of clicking that he needs a woman to be like, come here, daddy. Or like, baby, I made this for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But now that it's clicking for him, he's already had a child and he wants stuff with sugar on it because his mama used to put sugar on it. His grandmama used to put sugar on it. And that's just what makes him feel whole. But this girl, she probably was so young, she probably didn't even know certain men need to put sugar on it.
Right.
Some woman that's going to see that in him, going to put some sugar on it and blow up his whole spot.
And that's natural. That's great case for not making that type of commitment until you're ready, until because you don't even know the things you value in your early 20s, 19ish, even through your 20s could be different, and it will be different if you grow than the things you value at that age. So why would you make a decision, having children, getting married, making a partnership, basically entering a lifelong contract while you're not even fully baked yet? But I think that they're gonna learn. He learned the hard way.
You're gonna learn the hard way. And then to me, it's even more detrimental with
the children,
boys, men, because when do men's brains literally stop developing or is completely developed? Isn't it like their mid-20s?
Absolutely. It's definitely not in the, I think after 21, about 21, 20, like that.
Oh yeah.
So are we gonna ding that person? Are we gonna ding him if he has a misstep later in life because some woman came along and said, I know this is how you like it, and I know your wife isn't giving it to you like this?
We shouldn't. I mean, I would, but I know that there will be people that will. But anybody with any sense should know if a child got, and he was a child, if you at 19, then you had no idea.
So again, commitment. So that's why I want to separate marriage from love, from commitment. Marriage and commitment could be the same, but not necessarily, because to me, what makes a marriage is the legality part of it, the legal partnership, the legal binding partnership. You can have a commitment. Shoot, gay people did it for years without having the ability to actually get married. They were in committed relationships. They didn't need a piece of paper to say, hey, you're my person and I'm your person and we're partners. So I don't think you necessarily need the paper. Sometimes the paper mucks it up to me. me.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I can believe that. But like also, I think like one way that modern marriage is flawed is because we put so much responsibility on this one relationship. We put like community. We used to get from an entire community,
talk
like
about it, girl. Talk about it.
your inspiration, your motivation, your belonging, your identity, your comfort, your predictability, your satisfaction, your sexual satisfaction, all of that, your friendship, all of that in one person, in one relationship.
Girl, here comes unpopular opinion number 3. That's why I believe that we can get into this another time, but I'm not mad at polygamy. I'm just saying. I think they might be onto something.
Wait,
I think they might be onto something. I'm just saying. I think they sister wives and everything.
That is so interesting, which is why I added the sexual satisfaction to
help a sister out. I don't feel like help us. I'm like, shoot, she gonna help do some of these dishes up in here, change some of these diapers.
So
sister tired. Let her satisfy you tonight.
It's your night.
It's your night.
All right. I don't want to do it this night. That we are going to discuss that. We are going to discuss the polygamy part of it in the consensual non-monogamy part.
Yeah. But I do agree with you though about I think I think you just said this, but I just want to underscore that I think we do put unrealistic expectations on one relationship, and it's too much. So anything is going to buckle under the pressure of that financial, sexual, emotional, psychological, intellectual, stimulation and support for all of these things. And I think it's hard as it is. I mean, it's not realistic.
And we haven't even brought up the kids.
Right.
We haven't even brought the kids in it, but it's like that template of marriage, you are bound to fail.
Maybe people don't do that anymore though. Do people still subscribe to that though nowadays?
I think that it started to change, but a lot of people I know do. A lot of people I still know do everything where it's like my husband doesn't make me feel beautiful all the time.
Ooh.
And he doesn't buy me this and I don't this and because I have moved through this world as myself, I interpret it kind of like, well shit, well like why you need him every time? You know what I'm saying? Like I get some of it, but like every day.
I mean, because you don't depend on your just one friend for everything, do you?
Exactly.
I know that's different, but
But to use a term that you used the other day, we were having a similar discussion. You were talking about a brain trust.
Oh yeah. For sure. You depend on other people for different things. I have different people in my brain trust who serve different purposes. Some people I will lean on more for career advice. Some people I'll lean on more for relationship advice or emotional stuff. And sometimes these things overlap, but sometimes they don't. And I just think that's the way it should be. It takes a village.
It takes a village. But when I look at sort of like some of the happier times of my life, periods in my life, it's when I had the situation was socially, I had more of a support system. Like, for example, one of the reasons college was so fun was because by default, the way that it's set up is socially, you have like all of these different outlets. You have an extensive brain trust, so to speak.
Yes.
So it's different once you come out of that environment. You're more so on your own, and life's a little bit harder because you don't have that social network just set up, established with so many people similar to you with similar things in common. But I think that that's what you miss out of life. When you go out into the world, you don't have that network. But then like when people get older and they go into senior citizen communities before their health gets really bad, their quality of life kind of goes up again.
Well, I want to ask you something though, because one thing we have not brought up yet that I don't call us bringing up yet. And I think this is the difference. And this is, I imagine this is what people will push back on, this notion. And that is companionship. So when you talk about people going into like a older assisted living facility, the companionship, because I think that might be a good case for getting married. At least that's what I'm hearing out in these streets, that, you get married because you need, even with their brain trust, you have at least a filtering out of everybody, not so much that you don't interact with those other people, but basically one or two people will rise to the top as people that you kind of enjoy a little bit more than the others. And I guess that's what marriage is in a sense. Like everybody else has been filtered out. This is my companion. This is the person that I really want to spend time with on an extended, basis.
You've been listening to a podcast of the Podfix Network. Discover more Audible gems like this at podfixnetwork.com. Make sure to catch up-to-the-minute network shenanigans by following @Podfix on Twitter, official_Podfix on Instagram, @Podfix Network on Facebook. And make sure to subscribe to Podfix Presents wherever you choose to find podcasts. The Podfix Network, artist owned and loved.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, review, subscribe, and share. It helps other listeners find us. And don't forget to follow us at Yummy Fearless on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and even Pinterest, where you'll find additional content from today's show and also our highly curated He Can Get It list. As always, you can listen to the Yummy and Fearless podcast with the Side Chicks on Apple iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, and Spotify. And if no one else has told you today, we love you and thank you so much for listening.